I finally got through to a manager and they're like, yeah, we're trying his room and he's not responding. And I was like, that's weird. And then it just kind of kept escalating. And at this point, I'm freaking out. I had a friend come over because I was panicking. I wasn't necessarily thinking the worst yet because I was like, okay, maybe he got sick or like maybe it was like a heart attack, but like they can rush him to the hospital or something, you know? And then they're like, paramedics are here. And then they're like, law enforcement's here. And then they said, the paramedics left, but law enforcement's still here. And at this point, of course, we know something's bad's happening, but we still didn't think it was the worst. And then finally, a security guard got on the phone with me and was like, sorry, like, unfortunately, he passed away. When I heard that news, I was like, I just completely just crumbled. Like, I collapsed on the floor and I was like screaming like an animal. It was just so brutal.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. I want to quickly say before we get started, if you're watching on YouTube and you don't see our lovely studio, it is because we are not in our studio right now, but we still wanted to chat with you guys before we dive into the episode. So
yes.
Don't panic. Next week, we will be back.
Yes. The episode to come is video recorded.
Yes. So just stay tuned. This is going to be great. I promise.
Yeah. No, but really, this episode is really good.
Yes, I'm very excited about this episode. It was a true honor to have Kelly in studio with us. We met her a little over a year ago.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know who Kelly Rizzo is,
she's an amazing chat. She is a food, travel, and lifestyle expert. She has an award-winning show called Eat, Travel, Rock. So just big fan of her work. She also is Bob Saget's widow. And that is how we met Kelly, was a little over a year ago. It was shortly after Bob passed. And we met Kelly during that very, very difficult time.
Yeah.
But her strength was truly unbelievable and still is. And her outlook is just incredible. And she really is keeping Bob's legacy going.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just, the first time we met her, I told her how inspiring of a human she is, but she truly is she's just like an infectious person. I feel like I loved our chat with her. We also, hopefully they cut some of it out because we talked about airplanes for a very long time. So bear with us. But yeah, we just love her and we're honored to have had her on and call her a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So hope you guys enjoy this. Get ready to laugh. Maybe grab a set of tissues. It's a wonderful conversation. We'll see you on the other side.
Kelly, welcome to the squeeze.
I am so happy, thrilled, and honored to be here. This is so special. Thanks for having me.
Wow. Oh. Likewise.
Yeah, likewise.
We're very honored to have you.
Yes, very excited to finally get to hang out because I feel like we've been trying to hang for a long time.
I know. We've had some brief little run-ins lately, but not enough good quality time. So
yeah.
This counts as good quality time.
Yes,
for sure.
Does.
For sure.
So we start each episode with a little game called Citrus Got Real. This little jar here, she's got a lot of little questions. Go ahead and pull one.
Okay. This is so exciting.
Boy, these new questions are making me nervous.
If you could move to any country in the world, where would you move?
Oh, wow. This is good for you.
So my first instinct would be Italy because that's where my family is from. My dad was born in Sicily.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So I still have a lot of family there. So it feels cozy and comfortable and in a sense like home to me because that's where my family originated from.
Okay.
But I also feel that, yes, I speak Italian, but not fluently. I'm conversational. So living there might be a little exhausting mentally because I'd always be like translating. So then part of me is like, I think London or England,
Right.
because I love London too. So,
Yeah,
and there's no
same.
language barrier.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I think that would
Yeah.
be
What about
mine.
you guys?
I think London would be mine.
Yeah, we are big London fans. I've spent a good amount of time there. I did a show there for 3 seasons. So
Oh, you really got to experience it.
yeah, it was.
I want
so
him to
much
do it
fun.
again because the last season was when we first started dating and I only got to see him for like a weekend because I just
Yeah.
started nursing school and I'm like, go do that again so I can actually just go move with you and live there because I am just dying
Yeah,
to stay there for an extended period of time.
I know. We were 2 weeks into dating,
Oh, okay.
and I had to leave to go film the show, and I was like, if you want to come visit me, like feel free. And I didn't think she would, but she did.
Oh,
But
nice.
It's like my first time traveling by myself too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely, that would be high up on the list.
London or Greece, but I think mine would be London.
Yeah. I haven't been to Greece.
I have family in Greece.
Oh, okay.
So,
Do you speak Greek?
not fluently. I can understand some things of it.
Okay.
It's my Nana is very mad at my mom for not like teaching
Passing
me
that on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
My mom-
same
my
thing in
mom
my
is-
family. Yeah.
fully fluent in it. And I was like, bro, you didn't want to teach me that one? But
Yeah, same thing. Exact same thing in my family.
Yeah.
My dad, speaks fluent Sicilian, well, Italian and Sicilian. They're actually very different languages.
Oh.
And he started teaching me when I was really little, but then kind of gave up because my mom's not Italian.
yeah.
So we didn't speak it in our house, even though like with my grandparents and stuff, we spoke
Yeah.
it. But my dad gave up teaching me when I was little. And now to this day, I'm always so mad at him. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like I could be totally fluent.
Yeah.
And, because those are the very formative years for
Yeah.
language, from let's say like 3 to 7.
Yeah.
And if you miss that stage, like you're never going to be as fluent as you could be. So
Yeah.
I know. I
missed
feel like
opportunity.
I feel like I knew a lot as a kid, but I recently I kind of stopped because I just got busy and I stopped doing it. I'm trying to think of the app that I was using,
Oh,
and it's like you get-
Duolingo.
oh yeah, was
or-
it that?
was it? I feel like
I'll
you would
have to
remember
look.
There's
that.
like Rosetta Stone and Duolingo.
So I did Rosetta Stone as a kid, and then we couldn't figure out how to plug a microphone, and it was like back when it was like actual like desktops and like the
Right.
actual like computer part of the computer. We couldn't figure out how to plug the microphone into it, so then I couldn't keep doing it because I had to speak to keep going on. But I think it is Duolingo where it's fun. Like you like just
yeah.
click
Wasn't
the
it
things.
like 5 or 10 questions a day or something?
Uh-huh.
Like it was a quick thing.
Yeah. And I was surprised that some of the words like came back to me. Like I feel like once you just know a couple of the words, then
Yeah.
you can.
Efkaristo.
Oh,
That's my like one Greek word that I
yeah.
know.
You found it so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is that?
It means thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Got it.
Oh my gosh, that's fine. Okay, we can get into the episode. We're excited to talk to you because a lot of things, but
Yes.
we love traveling and we also love food, and you love traveling and you also love food.
I'm excited about this.
So we have
Yes,
we'd
we do.
love to know all about that. But where did your passion for travel and food come from?
Well, kind of, I guess, going back to the Sicilian roots, my grandma was an incredible cook and I spent so much time in the kitchen with her and I just loved learning to cook. And I think from a very young age, especially when you have, like an ethnic side to your family, you eat more interesting cuisines and
Yeah.
you eat more interesting food items than you normally would as, let's say, a typical American kid.
Yeah.
So from a young age, I was eating like snails and clams and like weird things that,
Wow.
you don't normally eat as a kid.
Yeah.
And so I was always a little bit more adventurous where my palate was concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then travel, we didn't do a lot as a kid. We went to Florida every year. And then we started going to Vegas. So it was like Florida and Vegas were the
wow.
only places that my parents took us.
Yeah.
And I remember I like really wanted to explore more and it just wasn't really a big part of my upbringing.
Yeah.
And so I just made it a point where I said, I'm going to be more well-traveled than
Yeah.
I was kind of raised to be. And I just got so obsessed with air travel and actual like airplanes and the airline industry and aviation,
Wow.
which is really strange. But I got really into like when I'm on a flight, I listen to air traffic control like the entire time. Like, which is like, I have this crazy nerdy side that a lot of people think is super weird, but it's fascinating to me. And so I started getting into that a long time ago. And then I was like, hey, I'm just going to start sharing about this. And, some stuff on the nerdier side and then some stuff on the more mainstream side. And then it kind of became like the food and the travel and then the music with Eat, Travel, Rock. I'm like, I love talking about this stuff. Maybe people want to hear about it. So.
Yeah. Have you ever considered like getting your pilot's license?
Oh my gosh, Taylor, I get this question so much.
Sorry.
So no, it's because every time I explain this to somebody, I get a different reaction. So I want to see what your reaction is. Okay. My answer to that is absolutely not, because I don't trust myself when it comes to, just the checklist that goes into like every time you fly.
Yeah.
Even if it's a private plane, or, just like a little, like a Cessna or something that you learn on. I know there's checklists. So the point of those is so you don't forget anything. But I'm like, what if I forget something? What if I forget, And then there's a big problem. So I feel like I just don't trust myself that I would forget a very crucial step and have, an accident.
Yeah.
So
no.
Right. So, but people are like, but that's what this is for. And that's what lessons are for. I'm like, no. Still, I'm happy being the passenger.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I've never even considered it. So I don't even know if I would.
Yeah.
I don't think
my dad was a commercial airline pilot. And he, of course,
this is so fascinating to me.
He's tried to convince me to just spark that passion, and it's just not there. Like, he's like, we could fly together. And I'm like, no, I am happy in the back of the plane. Like, love travel, totally fine with planes. Do not want to be up there.
I was going to say, the thought of like I feel like the checklist thing I'd be fine with, but like, there's no like road. Like, how do you know you're going straight? Like, thinking about, like,
waypoints.
I know there's ways. Yes, I do. But like, not, I don't know. There's a lot of space up there that's just open. And I don't know if I like that.
Well, there are you can't see them, but there are roads in the sky, and there's waypoints, and there's like literally like highways pretty much that, and different routes that you take. So if you're going from LA to Chicago, you'd have certain waypoints. They would be like, hit direct to this point, and then now go direct to this point. And so
that makes me
they give you
better.
like little signposts that you need to hit.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think I can.
No, not for you.
But at least that means you've probably never really been afraid to fly if you grew up with it and your dad was a pilot.
Yeah. When I was younger, like, I never was, but fear of flying actually has like crept up to me in my older years. Like, it's started kind of somewhat recently. Like, I never was afraid of flying, but in the last few years, I've started just getting a little bit skeptical, which
interesting.
is
And is that more of a enclosed spaces thing? Is it a aerodynamics thing? Is it you just don't like the process? Like, what's the reason? Because, by the way, I used to have a tremendous fear of flying.
Really?
And then that's why I think I became so obsessed with all this, because I did so much research and like learned so much about it, because I knew I wanted to travel. And so I forced myself out of a fear of flying by just and that's a lot of what I do now is I try to help people and give I do Instagram videos and stuff for people who have fear of flying. So
wow.
I've always been scared to look stuff up, because I feel like if I learn something,
I know, but it's not the case with flying. If you actually like look at the statistics, like
exactly. So what kind of bugs you?
I don't know. I am a claustrophobic person, and we'll get into that later with special forces.
Ooh, okay.
But I don't know. It's just like fear of something going wrong. Like, I don't know what it is. It never existed before. But so I don't know. Just when we're like taking off or landing, I just like get a little anxious.
Well, maybe if you listen to the pilots and air traffic control. So what happens for me, and this is why I still do this, is there's a channel that, an app where you can listen to your pilots and air traffic control. So as you're taking off, immediately after takeoff, or like within 30 seconds after takeoff, your pilots always check in with the tower and they'll say, you know, United 1520, 2000 climbing for 5,000 and whatever. And then your air traffic control is like, all right, United 1520, you're clear for 12,000, at a heading of 180, like whatever it is. Wow. And so when I hear my pilots check in and they're like calm as can be and easy, I'm like, oh, everything's great.
Wow. That's so crazy. You can listen to your own pilots.
Mm-hmm. Well, you listen to the channel. So you would listen to LAX tower and LAX departure.
So you'd hear all.
I know this is so nerdy. I know, but
I'm like locked and loaded on this.
Yeah,
it's
so you can. Well, United used to have Channel 9 where you could actually listen only to your pilots the entire time.
Okay,
but they don't have that anymore, really. And so you can make sure you're on the right frequency, and then you can listen to.
Wow.
Coast to, like across country, you just like if your plane's on. Oh, we're over Minneapolis, so we're in Minneapolis Center. You tune into Minneapolis Center, and then you could.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wait, that's so
just
cool.
I know.
Little
we should, what app do you
AvGeek info for you. It's called liveatc.net.
Okay.
Is the air traffic control one, but then I also do Flight Radar 24 for the tracking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those two in conjunction is my little holy grail of.
So funny. I'm just imagining you on flights.
Yeah, I'm about to be so annoying with that.
Bob thought I was insane. He thought I was crazy listening to it all the time until it really came in handy a couple times because I would know things before the flight attendants would even know.
Wow.
I would, like there were a couple times we're on the tarmac and all of a sudden we're not going anywhere. And our plane like jolted forward and nobody knew what happened. And we were about to take off, but we weren't taking off. And I'm listening to our pilots and our pilots are like, ground control, a bus just hit our wing. And like one of those ground transport buses, a bus just hit our wing. We're going to have to return to the gate. And I said to Bob, I'm like, honey, a bus just hit our wing. He's like, no, it didn't. I was like, yeah, it did. And I was like, he's like, but we're going to take off, right? I'm like, we're not going anywhere. And he's like, no way. And the flight attendants didn't even know yet.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the pilot comes on the intercom and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, a bus just hit our wing. And Bob was like,
that is so
damn it, your weird, creepy hobby just came in handy. And he was like so mad about it because he's like, all right, now I guess this is kind of cool. And then ever since then he appreciated it. But yeah.
Okay, we got to start doing this.
I know. I do like weird things where like because I used to be the same. I'm way worse than you.
Yeah.
Flying, but since like working as a nurse with COVID, I have like claustrophobia things now. And like being in the small space, but also not being in control of it really gets me. So I literally try to peek at the pilots like when we get on the plane, and if it's like I literally am like, he looks older. Okay, great.
He looks competent and mature.
Yeah, he's experienced. Okay, I literally tell myself. I don't think I've ever even told you that.
His first flight.
Yeah. Oh, he's got some great. Okay, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's been flying planes for a while. That's what I had to like tell myself to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna be fine. Like that's the weird justification. But.
So when would you be afraid if you like looked in there and there was like a 20-year-old?
Well, we were flying from.
If you're with a regional carrier, or if you're with,
when we were going from Monroe to Atlanta, it was like a young guy and a young girl, and I said, "Oh no."
It's those.
It was a little. They did a great job. If I was on your flight and you're listening, you did a marvelous job. But it worried me a little bit.
Whenever people say "have a safe flight," I'm always like, what? It's not up to me.
We were just talking about that.
I'm always like, okay, thanks.
I know. I still do it, but I'm like,
I always say like easy travels,
safe travels or easy travels.
I'll say or like comfy travels or something, things that you actually maybe have a say in. And then whenever anyone asks me like, how was your flight? I'm like, I'm here. So it was great.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
It got me here.
Right.
Yeah. Something else I heard, we heard with a flight attendant tell another one, like the one that was in the back. She was telling the one up front before she went to the back before takeoff. She was like, see you upstairs.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
it was right before we were like taking off, and they were like, all right, see you upstairs.
And then she walked back to the back of the plane. I was like, is that what they say? Like up in the air? See you upstairs?
Well, hold on. What type of plane were you on?
Oh.
Was this a big plane?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say on the 777s or 788,
no.
they actually have the bunks where if you're going overseas, the flight attendants, there's dorms. Like there's bunks up there.
Yeah.
wow.
No, this was just like, I think this is probably like LA.
Oh, so they literally
Atlanta
just
or
said,
something.
see you in the sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Better
that's
see you
cute.
upstairs.
I was like, oh, that's fun.
I know.
I like that
I'm
one.
gonna
Maybe
start
they meant
using it.
heaven.
Oh boy. Well, we made
Yeah.
it. So
We
I know.
made it. So.
Thank
We're like, that's morbid, Kelly.
Thank God they did not. Okay, so one of our sponsors for this episode is Regain Couples Therapy by BetterHelp. And you guys hear Taylor and I talk about therapy all the time on the show for ourselves as individuals, but also together as a couple. And therapy has truly just provided us so many tools to carry out in our relationship with each other, our relationship with our family, with our friends. And it has become such a great tool that we implement in our lives and that we learn more about ourselves, about each other, and about just like how to handle situations better. Therapy has truly just been a game changer for us. So if you guys are interested in bettering your relationship, I highly recommend that you guys try Regain Couples Therapy by BetterHelp. The best relationships are truly always worth fighting for. And you guys should try it in therapy. You can visit regain.com/thesqueeze today to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/thesqueeze for 10% off your first month. Enjoy. Okay, so we all know deodorant. We all use deodorant, hopefully. But I don't know if you've ever thought about a whole body deodorant or if that even exists. But I'm here to tell you that it does exist. Lumi has come out with the first of its kind whole body deodorant. It's seriously safe to use anywhere on your body, all the nooks and crannies, anywhere you can think, anywhere that you feel like you need deodorant, you can put it there. It is OBGYN created, which is amazing because that means it is safe for us ladies to use. It's also aluminum free, baking soda free, and paraben free. And it's pH balanced as well. It's just an all around amazing product. And, you know, deodorant is needed in so many other places than just our armpits. So you guys should check out Lumi today. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers can get $5 off the Lumi starter pack with code THESQUEEZE at lumideodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit Lumi Deodorant, that's LUME deodorant.com, and use code THESQUEEZE.
Okay. Travel. I'm super curious about this because we like traveling and for I'm saying a lot of things here. I, up until recently, have traveled a lot, but it's always been for work.
Okay.
We've started in the last few years, couple years, like traveling for fun.
Right.
Really for the first time in our life. Do you have, because I want to like put it on my notes in our to-do list, like if you could choose anywhere, like where have your favorite places been to visit?
Well, let's combine two things in one here. Obviously, we were talking about you guys love the food aspect as well.
Yeah.
So my favorite food city in the U.S., besides Chicago, my hometown,
Yes.
which is New York and Chicago are neck and neck, but Chicago, like let's say per capita, probably has the best restaurants.
Yeah.
But my favorite food city by far is New Orleans. Have you
Yeah.
been?
Oh, yes.
Yes, a lot.
So it's such a romantic, little antiquated, interesting town that's so eclectic and so beautiful in so many ways and really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the food, when you really do like a deep dive foodie tour there,
Yeah.
there is no place in the country that has more incredible restaurants,
Wow.
like kind of jammed into one small
Wow.
space, that are just out of this world.
Do you
love that
know
you said
any
that.
off the top of your head? Because I filmed a movie there year before last, so I was there for like almost 3 months, and I
Ooh.
got to know a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
of
there's one. It's called La Pêche.
Oh.
That was, I forget the
Yeah.
chef now. I mean, I did this
Okay.
whole foodie exploration. I have a whole travel guide, so I'll give you guys a travel guide. It's on my Instagram. of the restaurants that I went to. I think I went to 19 restaurants in 3 days or something. Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy.
Wow,
And
wow.
every single one was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, La Pêche was one of the best ones. And then they just have so many cool like you can go to the
Little
old
hole in the
absinthe
walls.
house.
Yeah.
I'm a big absinthe fan. So,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, actually going to a place that does, you know, they are experts in absinthe
Really?
is really cool. And I mean, that place has been there since like 1790 or something ridiculous, or 1810
Jeez
or
Louise.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just such a authentic, real place. I just love
Yeah.
New Orleans.
I love that you said that. Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
I can't think of any of the restaurants off the top of my head, but we had some fun exploring.
I know we found the ones that we loved.
I know.
But I
We'd
just
have to
forget the
look.
names.
Do you
of
remember
them.
the cute little one? Isn't it your friend's with that cute outdoor area? Am I incorrect?
Cute. Oh.
Where we went with Joaquin and Craig, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I didn't go. Maybe you
Again,
went.
don't remember the name. Ambiance incredible.
Yeah.
I'd say food 8 out of 10. Ambiance 11.
I know. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, and all the oysters. They get so many
Yes.
oysters.
We need to go back now that I like oysters.
Oh yeah, because you didn't do oysters then.
I was always just afraid of them because I'm like a texture person.
Oh, man.
So I always say I'm not a picky eater, but when it comes to like textures of things, it kind of scares me. Like I didn't like mushrooms until we started dating.
I've converted her.
He cooked them like crispy, and now I can just
okay.
eat them normal, or regular how they're normally cooked. But I never tried oysters just because they kind of freaked me out. But I love sushi. But anyways, we were doing our tasting for our wedding, and
So this is just a year ago.
they like brought out all of the food for us to try, obviously, and they bring out oysters, and I was like, okay, these are going to be at
Ooh,
our
oysters
wedding.
at the wedding.
I need to
Fancy.
I need to try this.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna and I shoot my little oyster, and I was like, this is the best thing I've actually ever had. And now since then, every time we're out, I'm like, oysters.
Thank God you got a good one on your first time, because every
Yeah.
once in a while you get a
Yeah.
funky one.
Yeah, a bad experience for your first time. Rough.
Yeah.
You know, it was like honestly one of the best things I've ever eaten.
See, I like the ritual of it. I like the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's the
Dressing
same thing,
it.
like with absinthe or like caviar or something like that. There's a whole little ritual that goes along with it.
So we saw you about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was January of 2022 when I met you guys.
Okay.
Oh wow,
In-
almost 2 years.
Was it like a week after Bob passed?
I remember exactly. It was 10 days
10
after.
days.
So Bob passed away on January 9th. And this was 10 days later. And it was like my first time really like going out, like
Yeah.
leaving the house. And you guys were so kind, along with your dear friend Jason Kennedy, to put together. And I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily just for my benefit, but it was, you know, definitely.
Highly,
Yeah, it was part of the program, I guess, was to have, you know, a little prayer get together, you know, virtual church service with Pastor Judah, to just kind of be there for me. And Jason was like, I want to do this for you, and put together a little, you know, kind of like group of love at my
I know,
house
I
to
know.
kind of help you. And I
Anything.
brought Candace, Cameron Bure, and my sister, Kristen. And that's where I met you guys. And you guys were just so kind and so thoughtful and just so sweet to, you know, we'd never met. And it's not like I knew Jason very well.
Yeah.
But and then Judah, of course, to do that for me. And it was just so meaningful to me. And to this day, like I'll never forget it as long as I live, because that was really the first time that not only did I really leave the house and kind of venture out, but in a group of people that I kind of took a little out of my comfort
For
zone,
sure.
especially at the time. And,
Sure.
you know, met some new people, and I just felt so, you know, held and cared for, even by people that I had just met. So it really meant a lot. So thank you again,
Oh, no.
guys,
Of
for
course.
being so supportive at that really, really sad time.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
so it's been about a year and a half. I'm sure there's good days and bad days. But I just wanted to say it seems like you're doing the things you love, and doing the things that, Bob would want you doing. So that just makes me so happy.
Thank you.
I just wanted to start because I actually don't know this. Can we go back to the beginning? How did you guys meet? Like, what is your guys' story? How did that happen originally?
So I just started recently telling the truth a little bit, because he used to say he found me on Instagram, but really he saw me on a dating app.
Okay.
So he saw me on Raya, that dating app.
Okay.
And saw me on there, but we didn't connect there. And then he went to my Instagram and saw me there, and then reached out to a mutual friend, because I was living in Chicago at the time. And, I was in media in Chicago. He knew another friend in media in Chicago and assumed we'd know each other because it's kind of a small world there.
Yeah.
And we did. And he reached out to him and was like, hey, do you know this Kelly Rizzo girl? And he's like, yeah. And sorry, but Bob goes, is she a bitch? and he's like, no, she's really nice, I hear. Or, I don't know her well, but seems really nice. And he goes, well, can you get a message to her that I'm going to reach out to her on Instagram?
Oh.
So he DM'd me and he's like, hey, I'd love to invite you to a show someday and take you out for I see you love food. I'd love to invite you to a show and take you out for a bunch of burgers and lobsters or something. I was like, okay. But I was like, it's a little too old for me. Not really my type. Like, I was not interested, but I was also kind of intrigued because, it's on one hand, you're like, oh, it's Bob Saget. Like, how do I not at least entertain this, at least on a friend level? Because, he's, somebody that everyone's known forever.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm like, I don't like on a romantic level. I'm like, I don't think so. So we were just friends for a little bit. And then as I got to know him more, I'm like, well, there is nobody else on this planet like Bob. He is one of a kind. How do I pass this up? I was like, damn it, he's charming. No, I can't like Bob Saget. That's weird. I know, but I'm like, he grew on me into where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see what this is all about. And then we got married. So yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So when you were getting to know him, what would you say was one of the things you were most attracted to? I imagine his humor is pretty high up there.
Yeah, but what's interesting is a lot of comedians, they're not always funny.
Yep.
And they have a really big dark side as well, because the reason they got to be so funny is because a lot of them went through some really hard stuff.
Yeah.
So Bob, like most comedians, had a very hard life, and a lot of really sad stuff happened to him. I mean, he lost both his sisters at a young age and both his parents, and just went through a lot. And also, you have to have a very neurotic, intense, frenetic brain in order to even do that type of work.
For sure.
And you have to be a little quirky and a little crazy and a little out there. So, he was an intense guy, and he was not always funny, and there was a dark side as well. And so people are always like, oh my God, is it just all fun and games to be married to a comedian? I was like, no, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, yes, of course, he was brilliantly funny. Nobody was quicker and more witty than Bob. So that was initially, of course, a major source of attraction in a sense, because I was like, he's brilliantly hilarious. But at the same time, he was also so thoughtful and so considerate and so just aware of like other people's needs and just doing everything he can to try to help. And like, what can I do for you? What can I do? And he was just always so on top of everything. He was like, wanted to help everybody he can in any way he could. And, with how busy he was also that person that if you asked him for a favor or he was doing something for you, it's like, it got done in 5 minutes. Like he made it happen. Like there was never anything that he dropped the ball on. Like he was just so, and I mean, I know it's not the most like romantic thing to be like, he was so reliable and responsible, but I mean, it's true because a lot of people aren't. And it really, like, I felt so safe and secure with him because he was always just such an incredible caretaker.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I have to ask because I feel like I can't really ask this question to a lot of people, but I was a fan of Twilight before. I was a big Twilight girl before dating Taylor. Did you watch Full House? Were you a fan of it?
It's interesting. Like it's, a similar dynamic then. I mean, everyone watched Full House. I wasn't like my sisters were maybe bigger fans in terms of making sure they watched it every week. Like maybe I had watched 70% of the episodes or something like that. So, in the 90s, I was definitely a fan. Like I liked the show, but I wasn't
More like a diehard.
Right. I didn't have like Stamos posters on my wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Danny Tanner posters on my wall. Sorry, Bob. Like usually the heartthrobby one was John,
Yeah.
So like I didn't have, I wasn't into it like that. But I definitely liked the show. And then same thing with like America's Funniest Home Videos.
Oh my gosh.
Like that came out in 1989. I was 10 years old. And I remember every single Sunday watching it at my grandma's house when we would go to her house for dinner since I was 10 years old. And like now looking back, I'm like, how weird is that? That I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, because I think that went through 95 or 96.
Really?
So, I was 16, 17 or whatever. And being like, let's say as a 12-year-old kid to be like, one day I'm going to be married to that guy. Like, that's so weird to me.
Yeah.
But like when I met him, like there was such a disconnect. And see, for you, this may be a little different because like, it's not like Taylor looks like a totally different person than he did. I mean, it's like, you can kind of tell it's Taylor. Like you sound the same. You kind of look the same.
Kinda.
Like Bob, his voice was different, because, 30 years had passed. Like his voice was deeper. So he kind of sounded different and he looked so different.
Yeah.
That to me, like the Bob that I was with, like there was a major, like I didn't see Danny Tanner from Full House. I didn't see the Bob of America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah.
So, I always felt like I would like have to like look at a picture side by side to be like, is that even the same guy? Like I really truly felt like it was a different person. So for me, I know that truly that was he like doing that. But like the Bob that I knew, it was like a separate guy from that.
She says the same thing.
That's exactly what I say. I mean, like, and it's funny because I was probably like 12 or 13. I like went to all the movie premieres and like everything. I loved it. I also just I loved the book, so I loved the movies. But yeah, I always say like looking like watching these movies, so I'm like, that's weird that like this guy that I'm watching, like it's gonna be my husband one day. Like trying to like tell my 12-year-old self that to process it. But I always say, even when I watch stuff of Taylor's, like today, watch it back, it's like, well, I guess like your most recent movie, I feel like that is you. But like rewatching Twilight back, or even just like thinking about it, or like seeing photos, I'm like, it's just like, it doesn't like, everyone's like, you're married to like Jacob from Twilight. I'm like, no, I'm married to Taylor. Who,
right.
They're just like, it's two different things for me.
Yeah.
It's just,
I know it's interesting that both of you feel that exact same way.
Yeah. Well, so, but when you were a fan of the movies, were you a fan of like his? Were you like, ooh, like I have a crush on him?
No,
type of thing?
I'll just answer for you.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I had to get that.
I was the other. I was too young for the abs.
I was the other.
I was too young for abs then. I wasn't into
12-year-olds
hotness.
into abs.
Yeah. Susie. The 12-year-old in me was not into the abs yet. If I was a little older, then I probably would have been. I'm your team now.
Sure,
that's all that.
sure.
Now
I'm team Taylor. That's all that matters.
Team Taylor now.
Get it. Rob's cute.
Well, I mean, I will say, like Bob was, people are like, oh my God, Danny Tanner. He really, there was a lot of that character that was very true to life. Like he was very clean and a neat freak, and also loved to hug people. And so it was like that was very accurate. He did embody a lot of that character, and then he also embodied a lot of like his entourage character. Like he was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I love that.
How old was he? I'm just curious here. How old was he when he started Full House? Like
31.
Okay. Wow.
Well, yeah, he was born in 56 and he started in 87.
Wow.
So,
holy crap. He's my age.
Oh, like right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it was 8 seasons. And so he did that through, he was 31 to 39 or something was his Full House years.
Oh, wow. He's in his 30s the whole time. He's so young.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I love that show.
And I don't know how, I totally forgot about America's Funniest Home Videos. I used to watch that with my family.
I know, until you said that, I forgot.
I know. I just totally blanked on that. But it
were
brought
you
back
old
so
enough
many
to
memories.
watch even like when Bob was still doing it, or were you not?
You
Okay.
were old enough for Bob. I don't think I was, unless it was like
Yeah.
He stopped that in 97, I
But like,
think,
were they
or
still doing
96.
reruns? Because I definitely I only watched Bob's. When they
Well,
replaced
he was
Bob, I
he
didn't
was
really-
actually a big writer on the show, and he did all those voices, like all those little
Yes,
like,
yes,
like
yes.
you know, like a little the animal voices and the silly voice. Like he did all those voices.
Wow.
Where now when it's it was
Yeah, who took over?
well, Alfonso is doing it now, and
yeah.
I don't believe he's more of just like he's
The
the host
Yeah.
versus a writer and doing all
Yeah.
the voices and stuff. So
Yeah.
Bob was always very proud of the fact that he,
Yeah.
was the original, and he was very involved with making that show
Yeah.
what it was at the time. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so we don't need to go here, but we know your story, and we saw you 10 days after. But for the listeners that don't, would you mind going back to the day that you got the call? Like I know he was gone, right? He was on tour.
Yeah. So he was in Florida, and I mean, this is not something that, I talk about all the time. So it's good to, it's one of those things that I might get emotional, but that's okay. People are always like, oh, is it okay to talk about Bob? I'm like, no, I love talking about Bob.
Yeah.
But he was on tour, and this was just like a short, this was just 2 shows in Florida.
Okay.
So he did Orlando, and then he did Jacksonville.
Okay.
And so it was Saturday night, he had his Jacksonville show, and then drove back to his hotel in Orlando. So it was like a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
And we were on the phone for maybe like an hour of it. Like we talked for a while on his way home. And, keep in mind it's 3 hours later there, and it's very late, by the time he's done, he didn't get home till like 2 a.m, and it was 11 for me. And I had COVID. So he had it like the week before, but then he was fine and, fine to go away to Florida.
Yeah.
But I was still not feeling great, and I had like a horrible sore throat. And so like all night I was like, oh, I feel like crap, and my throat hurts. And so he got back to the hotel, and he started texting me pictures of these like throat lozenges that his friend had given him. And he's like, look, honey, I'm bringing these home for you. Like, just go to sleep. Can I pay you to go to sleep? Will you just go to sleep? Because I wouldn't. He's like, you need rest. He's like, take this med and take these meds and like, just go to sleep. And he's like, I will see you in the morning. I will be home tomorrow. He's like, and then it was all like, thank God. It was all like love. Like, I love you so much. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I miss you. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. And then it was, I woke up the next morning, and I feel so bad now, like looking at my text to him, because I woke up and my throat was still like on fire. And so I was texting him like, my throat still hurts. I called the doctor and he didn't respond to me yet. Like, what do I do? Like, this is not normal. Like, I've never had a throat like this. Or my, like it feels like strep. Like this is, and I was just like unloading on him about my sore throat, and he like wasn't responding. And as I said, Bob was very, very reliable and responsible. And like, if he didn't return a text in 10 minutes, I was always like, either he's filming something or on stage, or like something's wrong.
Yeah.
But because I have a major tendency towards worry, and this has been a problem my whole life, like if ever I can't get a hold of somebody in my family, I always think the worst happened.
Yeah.
And Bob was always telling me, he's like, you've got to stop the worrying. Like, you're going to give yourself a disease. Like, you're going to give yourself cancer. Like, you're going to give yourself like something. You have to stop this. It's so bad for you. He's like, when have you ever worried about anything where it's ever actually come true? Like, you worry about all this stuff and it never happens. So just stop it.
Wow.
And so that morning, I'm texting him and he's not responding. And of course, like, your mind doesn't go to like the worst place like immediately. Yeah. But it was, like a couple hours later, I'm like, this is weird. And I knew he was flying home that day. And I remember being like, doing the math. And I'm like, okay, it's 11 here. It's like 2 there. His flight I thought was at 3. Like, he should be at the airport by now.
Yeah.
And like his phone was still at the hotel. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But I was like, nope, I'm not going to let my mind go there, because he always said, what are the odds anything? So it was like the one time that I was actually testing myself to like not get worried.
Right.
Wow.
And I was like, nope, I'm just not going to go there this time.
Wow.
And finally, after it got to the point where I was like, this is really weird, that I called the hotel and I was like, can I speak with, can you put me through to, and I knew his alias.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, can you put me through to this room? And they're like, well, we don't do that. I'm like, yes, you do. I gave you the alias.
Right.
Like, clearly I'm not like a fan calling.
Right.
And I was like, fine, can you just call his room and then like call me back or tell him to call me?
Yeah.
And then they called and then I finally got through to a manager and they're like, yeah, we're trying his room and he's not responding. And I was like, that's weird. And then it just kind of kept escalating. And then they're like, we're doing a wellness check. And then it was like, I was like, okay, now this is when I started calling like his daughters and his ex-wife and my family. And I'm like, at this point I'm freaking out. I had a friend come over because I was panicking.
Wow.
And then it just, at that point, we're like, all right, something's weird.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily thinking the worst yet because I was like, okay, maybe, he got sick or like maybe it was like a heart attack, but like they can rush him to the hospital or something, And then they're like, paramedics are here. And then they're like, law enforcement's here. And then they said the paramedics left, but law enforcement's still here. And at that point, I'm like, what? Like, it just, and at this point, of course, we know something's bad's happening, but we still didn't think it was the worst. And then finally, and this was a 2-hour process of me being absolutely hysterical on the phone. I will say my sore throat went away immediately because your body can only handle like the worst pain at any given moment.
Yeah.
So it was weird. My body was like, I'm going to give you a little break on this aspect because you have bigger shit to deal with right now.
Yeah.
And I finally, my friend was like demanding, like, we need answers. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And then finally a security guard got on the phone with me and was like, sorry, like, unfortunately he passed away. Like, when I heard that news, I was like, I just completely just crumbled. Like, I collapsed on the floor and I was like screaming like an animal. It was just so brutal. It was so horrible. And then it was kind of a blur, but then it was just like phone call after phone call after phone call. Like, I had to, the first call I made was to his ex-wife, Sherry, because I knew like I'd been talking to his girls all morning, but I'm like, I knew that I couldn't tell them.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I told Sherry and then Sherry told them. And then immediately it hit TMZ like 20 minutes later.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And then thank God people started coming over. I think Candace was the first person and then like Jody and Lori, Stamos, and then Jody and Lori. And it was literally like the Full House people were like actual family, and they were there right away. And because, my family's all in Chicago. So I was alone and his girls are in New York. And so I had to have like his friends were the only people there for me physically. And it was just like this crazy whirlwind because you think of, going through that in and of itself is insane. But then when you have to do it, when it's like in the media and publicly, and it was just, sometimes it's actually cathartic to like go through that process again. Cause I don't do that all the time, but every single time I do it, it like hits me cause it takes me back there, like it was yesterday. So anyway, that's the very long answer to your question.
I just can't like the media side of it all. Cause I know we talk to a lot of people like about, we talk a lot about this like grief and just like this whole process, but just like that's just like that's killing me hearing that from you.
On top of how difficult the situation is, like you got to deal with this too. It's
like it's not just something that you're not meant to deal with loss in that amplified like that. And
having to be giving statements and like it's like you shouldn't have to worry about that at all. You should be able to grieve in complete privacy.
And well, it is a double-edged sword in a sense because it was also something that even though it's so weird to have to deal with that, the outpouring of love, I'm sure you guys noticed that, like, was
Yeah.
like that was like nothing anyone had ever seen. I mean, it was
Yeah. No, that
next
was
level.
crazy.
I mean, it was like Bob and like Queen Elizabeth
Yeah.
that year like got more love than anybody. And on one hand, there was pressure and a lot of responsibility to be in the public eye dealing with this, but at the same time, it made me and his family and his friends, just so happy to see just how, I mean, we knew how loved he was, but like not to that extent. And I feel like Bob would have been like, part of him would have been like, yeah, of course people love me this much. Like I'm Bob Saget. Like everyone loves me. But then we're also like, no, he would have been shocked with, because he was, he had his insecurities too. Like he would be super confident on one hand, and then sometimes he'd be like, I hope people like me enough, So just like any artist or comedian or anybody, like you have that both sides to your personality. So I know he would have been so honored with how much he found out that people really, really loved him. So, and then on the other hand, like here, I'm talking to you guys today. I've, whether it's about, when it was right after it happened or more recently, like I'm always here to talk about Bob because I want to keep his memory and his legacy alive. Yeah. Not that I need to do that because people love him anyway and he's not going anywhere regardless, but anything I can do to help keep his memory alive is what, part of my mission always going forward because, he deserves it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I'm sure that you guys have heard of Skims. If you haven't, you may be living under a rock. But Skims is one of my favorite underwear clothing. Their triangle bralette is one of my favorite things. I truly just have had no desire to wear a bra since COVID. And I'm always in a sports bra, but since getting these triangle bralettes, they replace a bra for me, like an actual like wire bra. They are so amazing, but the Fits Everybody collection of underwear is super lightweight and it molds to your body. It's like this buttery soft fabric that truly just fits everybody. They have sizes available in extra, extra small all the way up to 4X. So if you guys haven't tried out Skims, you need to believe the hype. It is real. Skims has over 100,000 5-star reviews for a reason. I am a fan of theirs. So many of their bras and underwears. I'm wearing their bra as we speak. And probably their underwear too. I need to look, but I will not do that on camera. But you guys should go check them out. We'll leave a link for you guys to go shop at Skims. It's a perfect gift for yourself, for a loved one, and everyone. Everyone needs some underwear, some cozy wear. And be sure after you check out, there will be a little section. Tell them that we sent you. You can click on podcasts. Tell them the Squeeze sent you. And you guys just seriously need to try it. It's the comfiest thing. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of always shopping for furniture. I feel like I'm constantly wanting to update, refresh, rooms of the house. Right now, I'm kind of focused on like the guest bedrooms of our house. And one of my favorite places to shop is Article, because they have so many different styles of furniture. They have, mid-century modern, coastal, industrial, boho, all of these different styles and made up into such cute furniture pieces. Their pieces are truly the perfect balance between style, quality, and price because, if we want to buy like really nice stuff, you gotta pay for it. But Article's prices are amazing and the quality of their furniture is chef's kiss. And Article offers fast, affordable shipping across the US and Canada. You can track your order as it goes, which is lovely. And for our listeners today, Article is offering $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, you can visit article.com/thesqueeze and the discount code will automatically be applied at checkout. That's article.com/thesqueeze for $50 off your purchase of $100 or more. Go check them out. You guys are going to love their stuff. I kind of mentioned the grief thing earlier, but I just think grief is such an interesting process because it is a lifelong process, but it also just looks so different for everyone. How have you seen that process change maybe like from, the beginning couple months to where you are now?
In the very beginning, you truly are so consumed and overwhelmed by it that you're like, I can't see how I'll ever be normal again. How will I ever be happy? How will I ever laugh? How will I ever smile? How will I ever, just have a normal day? And because in the beginning, you get hit by a wave. I mean, once again, this is different for everybody. I cannot speak to somebody who's, let's say, like lost a child. That's a completely different ballgame. I lost my husband who was 65 years old and lived an incredible, amazing life and got a chance and an opportunity to change the world and make it a better place. Yeah. So that's very different than somebody who, let's say, loses a child at a very young age where you're like, that child never got to do this or that, or, So my experience and being okay 21 months later, like, you could maybe lose a sibling or lose a parent or a child, and 21 months later, you're still not okay. Yeah. So I understand that my situation is unique to me. Yeah. But in the beginning, it was like every 5 minutes. Like, I don't think I could go 5 minutes, maybe 10, without getting hit by this wave that just feels like it just punched you in the stomach, and you just start bawling and you're crying, and it's like you can't breathe and you can't do anything except deal with that like wave of grief. Yeah. And then maybe after like a week or so, it's every half hour. And then maybe after a month, it's like every hour. Yeah. And then 6 months later, it's like, okay, maybe I'm only crying a few times a day. Yep. And then after a year, it's like, okay, now I'm only, I think I cried every single day for like 6 months. And then I remember I had one day where I didn't cry, and I felt so horrible about it.
Wow. Yeah.
I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
That how could I not have cried today? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, what's wrong?
What's wrong with me? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I guess I'm a horrible person, and maybe I didn't love Bob as much as I was supposed to. And like your brain starts going to these places where you're like, oh my God, like, are people going to think I'm horrible? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I had a day, maybe, 6 months or so after. I mean, this wasn't like 6 days. This was 6 months after, where I was like listening to a song in my house, and like, the speakers were playing some song, and I remember just like singing along, and I almost like danced a little for a second. And I remember I was like, I I can't believe I just danced. Wow. I was like, oh my God, like, did anyone see that? I have to call. I called my sister. I was like, Kristen, like, I just danced a little and I sang a song and I feel so guilty about it. She's like, Kelly, like, if you feel happy, like, go with it. Yeah. And then I learned, and like now what I'll tell people is, when you have those moments, like, you're going to get hit by another wave of grief soon. So just like enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah. Like, we don't know if we're here for another hour on this planet. Like, Bob surely didn't think he had a couple hours left when he talked to me that last time, Yeah. And we never know how much time we have. So it's like, if you're feeling happy and if you want to dance around your freaking house. Yeah. Because life is going to get hard again, and you're going to cry again. And if you're grieving, like, you're going to get hit by another wave of grief, or if you're just living life, like, just go with it. Yeah. So I was really hard on myself for, starting to kind of feel happy again.
Yeah. Would that be, I'm guessing this is what your answer would be, but I was going to ask, what do you wish that you knew in those early moments of grief that you see, a bit clearer now? Would it be?
Yeah, I think it would be that survivor's guilt situation, which fortunately, and I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I'm very blessed and lucky that I didn't have any guilt or like regret about Bob, because, as I said, our last conversation was, I love you so much. And, it's not like we were in a fight. And, he was a wonderful husband and I was a wonderful wife, and we had a great relationship, and we treated each other with respect. And, there was nothing like, it wasn't like I was supposed to be there and I wasn't there. And like, what if I was there? This wouldn't have happened. There was nothing like that. Like, I wasn't supposed to be there. There was nothing I could have done. It was a freak accident. Like, what? Yeah. And by the way, when I saw you guys that 10 days after, we still didn't even know what had happened to him.
What?
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, we didn't find out for like until like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Really?
Yeah, so we just kind of assumed it was, like a heart attack or a stroke. Or I mean, like what else would you assume?
Yeah.
So you were waiting to find out.
Yeah, we didn't know that
the details.
he had hit his head until it was like maybe 2 to 3 weeks after. So in that time, like we still didn't know what it was.
Wow.
So it was like really weird to live in this limbo of like not knowing what had happened. And fortunately, like a lot of times those things take weeks and weeks and like 6 to 10 weeks. And we fortunately found out like much faster, but
wow.
But still, point is, it was a freak accident. And, it was just one of those things where there, as I said, there was nothing I could have done or anyone could have done differently.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have guilt or regret, which are like really the things that can kick your ass when you're grieving.
Yeah.
So I was lucky not to have that. But then the guilt crept in when, I started to feel not so horrible all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, can Bob see me smile? Like, is he mad at me? Like, and of course I'd be like, no, he'd want you to be happy. But then I'm like, but so soon?
Right.
And there's no like, I mean, the time is different for everybody. Some people can smile and laugh 6 days later and, some people 6 years, you don't know. But, I wish I would have known then that like this, people start to feel guilty for feeling happy and that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never thought about that before, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so cool that we've never talked about this before. And I'm so thankful for you talking about that because that is like such a real thing. And you just being honest with that is going to, help a lot of people because I know. And now I'm in this place where it's like anything, I am certainly no expert. I've only lost one person very, very, except for grandparents, thankfully, thank God, but it's only been Bob. So I've gone through this one time. So it's not like I'm an expert. Bob was the expert. And that's why it was, that was what made this even harder is because he would always tell me like, don't worry, like I'll be there for you whenever you lose somebody. Cause like, I'm the guy, I'm the grief guy. Like I know how to handle this. I've been through this so much. Like, don't worry. Like when it comes time and you lose, your parents or this or that, like I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
And so to go through this, like without it, but I was like, wait, but you're my guy. Like, how do I do this without, right? Like you're my grief guy. Like, where are you? So
I do feel like in some way that he did keep his promise with that because I think you going through this, I think he's going to be with you in the sense of what you've learned about yourself and how to handle it. I think that's still, obviously he's not here in the physical, but I definitely think he's still, going to be with you and what you've learned through this, through him.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that and reiterating that. But yeah, it's true. And just in other ways too, like his humor, like I can hear so many times, I can hear like jokes that he would be saying, like in a certain moment, I was like, oh, Bob would be saying this or Bob would be, and then like, he'll give me moments of like levity that I'm feeling like, okay, this is, there's a conduit here where he's still able to be there in a sense. So
you've talked about the importance of selling the house that both of you lived in and that, being crucial to your healing journey. Was there like a moment or a day? Like when did you come to that decision?
Well, actually, so the process was a little, because I remember there was something I said in an interview one time that almost got taken a little out of context, saying that I had sold the house because it was triggering, but that's not actually what happened.
Okay.
This was a house Bob had been in for 20 years. Oh. He loved the house, but it was just way too big of a responsibility for, and technically, like the house, was his estate. So like his girls were a part of that, and they live in New York, and they're like, well, like we can't have the house, and you can't. Like, it was too big of a undertaking for us to keep, and it just didn't make sense. And so the girls and I, like we needed to sell the house, and it was just what needed to be done. It wasn't like an emotional thing.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was not part of, like we had to have big talks about like, oh, this is how we feel about it. It was sad because Bob loved that house, but that was just more of like a logistical decision that, but then what had happened was we were in the house for like 3 months after he passed. Or I moved out 3 months later. And during that time, I would realize that certain things in the house, because, keep in mind, like he left the house one day and then just never came back. Mm-hmm. And so there was so much stuff that was, left as he left it. And there was so much stuff that, everything was his stuff. And also I had such kind of traumatic memories of being like in the kitchen. Like that's where I was when I found out what had happened. And I remember like looking at the part of the kitchen that I was in where like I literally fell to the ground and like, was crying hysterically. Like that's every time I was like in that part of the kitchen, I was like, ugh, like that's where I was when that happened. And then being in the living room, like this is where we were all gathered right when everyone started coming to the house that day. And so I'd like walk through parts of the house and just have these memories attaching, like kind of traumatic memories. Even though there were so many happy memories in that house, the first few months, it was very triggering to be there because everything was Bob. And I didn't have enough separation of like time and space to like be in a place like we're now. When I see a picture of Bob or a video of Bob, like I smile and I can laugh and I'm happy. Of course things, I'll still see some and like cry and get sad, but like for the most part, I can look at something and be happy now. Where in the beginning, everything was, I would start bawling every time. And like there at the house, I would see, oh, that's the lawn chair he would sit on every day and smoke his cigars and his robe and have his laptop and write his emails. And like, so I couldn't even like look out at the pool because I would picture him, I'd picture him out there doing those things. And it was just so sad. And even though it's like, I loved the house and I loved being there. And, as I said, we didn't sell it because of that reason, but it got to a point where I was like, okay, this is coming at the right time because it was really hard to still be there. And so like when I moved to my new house, it was like a fresh start, but also I still brought so much of his stuff, but it was like in a way that was like curated and in a happy way where it didn't have like the heavy attachment to it. Even though I brought so like his stuff was everywhere, it was stuff like I wanted to look at and stuff that I wanted the memories from, versus it being forced upon me. It was stuff that like I, as I said, curated.
Yeah. That's so special. That you get that.
Okay. On a lighter note.
Okay.
We love special forces. we
lighter note. Jeez, that was the hardest week of my life.
I mean, but
let's talk about a different type of misery.
Oh man.
Let's talk about you being tortured.
Okay. That's my point is, so we watched the first season.
Like, okay. You did?
Yeah. Like I loved it. I don't know. Did you see the first season?
No.
Okay.
I did before I went, but not before I decided.
I was going to say before you decided?
No.
Okay. Because I don't know. There's no way after seeing the first season I would say yes to doing that. I love watching it, but I don't think I would survive. I mean, it's crazy.
So now what part makes you, is it like the living conditions type of thing? Like you're like, no, I like
everything.
being comfy in my house, or
all of it.
Is it the physical challenges or the scary stuff?
So the challenges, so the living conditions and everything, absolutely. Couldn't do it.
He's on a sleepover type of guy. He is a give me my own space.
See, that's how I am. Yeah.
In my own. He was.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a nightmare. The challenges, like there's some that I would be totally fine with and like think would be fun. Like the running down the thing. Like I think I would like that. Anything that has to do with like being claustrophobic and like the dropping like into water and like circumstances like that, I just don't think I could do it. Like I wouldn't even be able to. I wouldn't agree to do it. I would say, peace out, Girl Scout.
Yeah.
But I just like, kudos to you for going on it because, man, it's just like, yeah. How was the experience without giving anything away?
I wanted to do this because on the physical side of things, like I always knew that I was pretty strong, pretty athletic, and pretty competitive. And when I saw a lot of these challenges, and I also am not scared of heights and not scared of water and like all those very adventurous things, like they look really cool to me.
Okay.
Like in the first season, they did the back dive off the helicopter into the ocean, where the backwards where you, it's not, there's no hands. It's like a hands-free, like you just cross your arms over your chest and fall backwards and dive off the helicopter. To me, I'm like, that looks awesome. Like I want to do that. So in one of the episodes, I did a back dive off a 30-foot platform off a boat into freezing pitch black water, like in the middle of the night. Ugh. So you fall backwards into 40-degree water.
That's another thing I don't do is cold water.
And nor do I, Taylor. However, when you're there and you don't have a choice, you just suck it up and you do it. Like I hate being cold. And so when my agent first told me, she's like, okay, so we want you to do this and it's happening and it's in Australia. And I was like, oh, Australia, like great. I've never been. I'm so excited. And then like the day later, she was like, oh wait, I'm sorry. It's actually New Zealand. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it was June in, here.
Yeah.
It was June everywhere. So it was June, but we're in LA.
Yeah.
And, June in New Zealand is winter.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I didn't realize how cold it was there. I still was like thinking like,
winter.
Australia, New Zealand, it's like, still always kind of nice. And this was the south of New Zealand. So we were in Queenstown, which was very, very cold. But I mean, not, as I said, I'm from Chicago, so I'm used to the cold. So this was, let's say high 30s, low 40s every day. So not brutal, but still.
That's cold.
We were outside all day. And in getting wet and in the rain and in the snow. And, but mentally, because people have been telling me this last year and a half, like, you're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong. Like you're the strongest person I know. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, you don't think you're strong. Like when you're going through this, you feel like a pile of mush, you don't feel.
You're just trying to get through.
Right. But everyone kept telling me this. And so I was like, all right, maybe they're right. Let's see how strong I really am.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, this looks like a cool opportunity to A, challenge myself physically, B, challenge myself mentally, and C, challenge myself like just comfort level. I need to sleep with a sound machine and my eye mask and my earplugs and my comfy bed and 70 pillows and, my Tempur-Pedic mattress. And in a completely pitch black, quiet room.
Absolutely.
And now I'm in a room with 13 other people on army cots that have no padding, no mattress. You get a little travel pillow that's made of paper that's like this big.
So like, it's what it looks like.
It's
not like they film. It's not like they film you guys getting in your cots and they're like, all right, cut. And then you go to the hotel.
Oh,
like,
no.
It is what it looks like.
It is 1,000% real. There is the bathrooms were outside. It was 4 plywood stalls that had buckets in the ground. So there was no plumbing. And I remember it was funny. So Jojo Siwa was like my bathroom buddy, because you have to go to the bathroom you can't go anywhere by yourself. You always have to have a buddy. Because it's like military rules. Like you can never be by yourself. So even if you need to go to the bathroom, which was, across the camp from our barracks, like from our bedroom, it was maybe like 50 yards away. So like not super far, but like you had to run everywhere. So you have to go with somebody
even
and you
when
have to
you're going
run.
to the bathroom.
Even when you're going, you have to jog everywhere or run.
Wow.
So, and even in the middle of the night, like, I'm in my 40s now. Got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night sometimes. So I would have to wake up Jojo because she was like, wake me up. Like, I don't care. Because she's 20. She could go back to sleep in 2 seconds.
Right.
So for me, it was so hard to go back to sleep. So I'd wake up Jojo or like Tom Sandoval and be like, can you guys go to the bathroom? Can someone go pee with me? And so we'd have to like put on our clothes. You have to get fully dressed because it's cold out.
Yeah.
Run to the bathroom and, you go to the bathroom and then go back. And then the funny thing is JoJo, and sorry if this is TMI, but like there was like a bucket of like orange sawdust, like outside with like a shovel outside of the stalls. And for like the first couple of days, JoJo and I were like, what's that bucket for? Like, what is that stuff? And then finally we realized we're like, oh, that's if somebody goes number 2, they have to shovel the sawdust into the buckets so that way it's like more hygienic.
Yeah.
But like we didn't realize what that was for. And then finally we saw some people like shovel it. We're like, oh, we get it. We get what you had to go in there for. Yeah. So it was no joke. We had to chop our own firewood to keep the wood burning stove or heater in the bedroom going.
It's legit.
It's very, very real. It's no joke.
So what was the worst part?
Well, the comfort level aspect was for me the sleeping. I was getting maybe like 3 hours a night. And then you're doing the most physically challenging stuff you've ever done in your life on very little sleep.
Jeez.
So that was really hard. But then for me, this boat carry challenge that I will say I'm very proud of myself in the fact that I said that I will not quit or give up. Like I'm not going to just be scared and quit, or I'm not going to just not want to do something and quit or be uncomfortable and quit.
Yeah.
I tried. You get to a point where I'm like, my knees were shot. I could barely walk, let alone run. And I was like, I want to give up. And then people would like not let me. And then I said, the only way I'll ever leave here is if I'm either injured or if my body just cannot physically go anymore. If like my body just breaks down.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that that is what happened.
Wow.
I went until my body just gave out and I could not go anymore.
Wow.
And we had to carry like I think it was 1,000 pounds, but it was probably like 400 pounds. Like one of those Zodiac boats, like those Navy SEAL Zodiac boats, like over a mile through hilly terrain out in like the fields in New Zealand, and push it up a frozen icy river that's like running downstream that's waist deep and it's like ice cold. And, I'm slipping on the rocks and falling backwards and the water's rushing over my head and I'm like hysterically just melting down and crying and convulsing. And the Navy SEALs guys are chirping in my ear like, your husband's looking down on you, like don't give up. And I was like, really, you're gonna pull that on me?
No.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but that certainly does motivate you. So it got to the point where I worked so hard and tried so hard, but I just, at some point you also are like, it's better for me to quit for the team.
Right.
Because if you're on in a team situation, you're like, I'm just holding the team back.
Right.
When you're on a team with like Tyler Cameron, who's a beast, and Tom Sandoval, who's incredibly fit, and then an Olympic gold medal speed skater whose legs are like tree trunks, who are like, she's the strongest person ever, and then me, I'm like, all right, I'm dead weight, guys, I'm dead weight. Oh my! You don't want me here.
I see. Okay, so give the Squeeze listeners an exclusive here. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I didn't. I was approached to be on this season. I was asked to be on it, and it was an immediate no. Because
I think you should reconsider for a future season. Maybe it'll be in the jungle.
I appreciate you saying that, but I'm gonna pass. But they told me it was going to be in Jordan.
That was last season.
The first
season was in the desert in Jordan.
Oh, well, then they maybe at some point thought, like they were saying the second season was going to be. So this New Zealand one.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because they went from like summer in the desert to winter war. The whole point is the season was winter warfare. So my guess is that if they went from desert to snowy New Zealand, I'm guessing that maybe next season will be like jungle, kind of, or like rainforest,
right?
Yeah,
which
like
to me
really humid, something like that.
To me sounds like all I think of as like bugs. And I was like, I'm like,
Yeah.
no way. Fortunately, there were no bugs in New Zealand. We didn't have to deal with any of that.
Because of the cold. Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for that scoop
No.
because I'm very excited for tonight's episode.
Me too. Yeah, I think this is the we do a back dive off a boat into pitch black water, freezing water, and then
You're not
there's
like tied up, right?
no, you're just free falling
Okay.
head first,
Oh, wow.
backwards. And
Stuff
I
is
will say
crazy.
I did really well in that one. And then there's a tactical driving challenge with like explosives and stuff where you're
I saw that preview.
yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love that show.
I'm excited.
It's so fun. Speaking of recent projects, I'd love to talk about a little podcast that that you're doing. If you would tell our listeners,
I've already
about it.
solicited you guys to be one of my first guests. Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. So
I'm
it's
obsessed with the idea.
oh, thank you.
It's so clever.
Yeah. it
Yeah,
is.
well,
Like, please have us on.
yeah. So it's called Comfort Food with Kelly Rizzo, and it's I'm just talking to really great guests who are friends or notable people who at some point have gone through something in their life or have something that they want to share about that maybe like what you guys do here. You talk to people who have gone through something and. But we're talking about, life, love, laughter, the whole thing, but while eating my guest's favorite comfort food.
So good.
So it's kind of a little bit in the vein of like the Hot Ones where the food isn't the main part of the story, but it's kind of there to help you along the way,
Yeah.
and the food's something you come back to.
Yeah.
So, we'll be eating your favorite comfort food. You guys can pick 2 different dishes or 10 different, whatever you guys want.
Yes.
And, so it's, we're talking about life in a way that, maybe where we're sharing things that have been difficult, but since we're doing it while we're eating your favorite comfort food, it makes it a little bit more lighthearted, adds a little levity to it and a little comfort to it. So yeah, it's hopefully something where people
So
can
good.
learn, but also be entertained. And, there might be some cooking that happens at some point, might be some cooking segments. Definitely, I'm sure some cocktail segments for people whose comfort food is an old fashioned. Yours. Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah. So that's happening real soon. I'm starting to record this week.
Oh my gosh.
When so by the time this episode comes out, do you know when you'll release?
I would say it's probably going to be very, very soon after. So
Okay.
by the time this comes out, I would say definitely look for comfort food because it's going to be coming out soon, or at least very soon after. So
Okay.
It's honestly such a good idea.
Such a great
Thank
concept.
you.
Like I just thought about what I'm
Such a
bringing.
great
I don't know
concept.
what you're bringing, but
You know what you're
I think just because I'm hungry and this sounds good because I was just talking about it, but it is kind of like comfort. It is comforty.
what?
Chick-fil-A.
see, and then that's why we can like get actual
Right. We
Chick-fil-A.
can just order Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Like I'm just sorry.
Wow.
Chick-fil-A
thinking of the
Chick-fil-A is tasty.
Sauce. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. the
Yeah,
waffle
I don't-
fries.
Yeah, what would yours be?
I know.
See,
know.
this is gonna be good.
I'll
I'll
start prepping it now.
I'll do the Chick-fil-A. You do the cocktail.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll go with the old fashioned.
We could do that.
Yeah.
I like old
So we
fashions
have
too. So great.
And you like old fashions too. So we got a cocktail. We got Chick-fil-A.
What
done and
more
done.
could you want?
That's a heck of a night right there.
Booze and Chick-fil-A. I love it.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Shot like actually it's we're doing shots of wild turkey or Fireball.
Oh no! You know what I do? I do
Chick-fil-A and Fireball.
I want you to introduce me more to absinthe. Like why? I think I've only like had it once or twice.
Okay, so how about this? I've been dying to have an absinthe party at so I just moved into a new house. I want to have an absinthe party.
Yeah.
So if I invite you guys, will you come to my absinthe party, please?
Absolutely.
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 You're done. You're done.
Why did I feel like that? It just felt so good in that moment to say that. But yeah, I love the traditional preparation of it. Like I'm going to have, I've had this before, but I lost it in the move, but I'm getting another one where it's this beautiful old, like antique looking, it's like a water cooler almost, but it's pretty little glass contraption and it has 4 spouts on it and you can turn it so it just gently drips water slowly out of each spout. And you put the absinthe glasses, which are also a special kind of glass. that you put under each spout, and you fill up like about an ounce of the absinthe, and then on top you put this special slotted spoon on top of the glass with a sugar cube on it.
Oh.
And so you drip the water slowly onto the sugar cube, which then dilutes the sugar, and it falls through the slotted spoon into the absinthe. And then it louches the absinthe. The water and the sugar together mix with the absinthe and like the wormwood ingredient that's in the absinthe to like activate it.
Wow.
And then it turns into a cocktail because then you add enough cold water to it. And then with the sugar, so it's like sugar water. It's almost like its own old fashioned in a sense.
Yeah.
And then you drink the cocktail, but it gives you, everyone's like, oh, it makes you hallucinate. Like, no, it does not. However, it does give you like an interesting kind of buzz. Like it's like a different, how like tequila gives you like a little slightly different, it's like that where it gives you a slightly different kind of buzz, but it's just so fun, the traditional preparation of it that
I love that.
so I want to do an absinthe party at my house.
Please do that.
We need to bring her to Joaquin and Craig's house.
I know. I was thinking it as she was saying it. Go ahead.
Our friends converted their like dining room into their own speakeasy, like in their house.
And they like live in an old house, like, small, older house.
In the valley. So unassuming, you'd never know. But
so you walk through the front doors and you're like, oh, this is a charming, very cute older house in the valley. But then you take a right and go through this frosted glass door, which used to just be their dining room, and you are transported into the coolest cocktail bar.
It's so cool.
I was going to say the husband, but they're both husbands. One of the husbands built it himself. Like he did everything, but you would never know. It's so beautiful. They have like every kind of liquor, alcohol, whatever you want to call it, you can think of.
He makes it. He's like, just as a hobby, he's a mixologist, so he makes incredible drinks.
They have like little nuts out. Like that's like how
got jazz music playing, and it is a vibe. It is so cool.
Well, count me in.
Yeah.
Don't have to twist my arm.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
All right, we good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was awesome.
Thank you.
We're just always thinking about you.
Thank you. Well, you guys were some of the first angels I encountered on this journey. It was not long after that you guys came into my life, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for having me. It means a lot.
Of course. Whew. Man, I don't even know where to start.
We love you, Kelly.
We
thank
love you, Kelly.
Thank you for coming and joining us. And thank you all for listening and tuning in with us for another episode. We are so thankful that you guys are along for this journey with us. I
don't know what we did to deserve it, but thank you.
We're having the time of our lives. So thank you guys for being a part of it. As always, you can follow us at The Squeeze on Instagram and TikTok, and you can follow Taylor and I. There's also at Lemons by Tay on Instagram for all of our additional resources and just kind of like a feel-good Instagram to follow. Honestly, I'm maybe biased, but it's probably one of my
You're
favorite.
Definitely biased.
It's probably one of my favorite Instagram accounts that I follow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can also.
How's my name in the?
You can also. Oh, it does have my name. I didn't even think about that.
What?
You can also email us at lautner.thesqueezepodcast@gmail.com, where you can send us all your questions, comments, concerns, advice column, which I think we finally settled on a name. I just feel very protective over this segment. So I feel like I've been gatekeeping it.
Okay. So maybe
it will come
next
solo episode, which I'm not telling you when that is. So you guys have to keep listening.
Okay.
But yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Leave us a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe and rate the episode. And we will see you next Wednesday actually next week is a fun episode.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wait, whisper it to me. Oh, okay. Well, we love you all, and we will see you next week.
Bye. Have a good rest of your day.
This podcast has been brought to you by Podcast Nation.